Welcome to the Bothell City Council regular meeting of July 18th, 2017. Before the call to order, we have, oh, it's in the paper copy. I'm sorry, I don't have your troop number handy.
584. Pack 584.
580, pack 584 Weeblos. Will you you guys do the color guard? Or you just do will you do the Pledge of Allegiance for us? Will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, great. So please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Thank you, guys. You can stick around if you want, or you guys can escape out the back. Up to you. First is the roll call. All council members are here except Councilmember Sandberg, who is running late, but she'll be here. Meeting agenda approval. I have one change to tonight's meeting agenda. Just out of the gate, we need to move up the executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110-1I. Potential litigation prior to we start the public hearings. Is there any other changes to tonight's agenda? Seeing none, I just wanted to point out to you that we have, according to the agenda, which we usually go over, we have until about 10:45 p.m. of information tonight. So I'm going to try to let you guys know, like, it's such and such time, and this is, we're so much behind, and do that throughout the meeting, hoping that we can try to stick to the agenda, because at 10:45 it's late for, well, it's late for me, and I'm sure it's late for most of us. So, okay, review of projected agenda. Is there any changes to the projected agenda? Seeing none. Oh, there we go, Councilmember Spivey.
Yeah, Mayor, I have to work on the 25th, so I will be unable to attend.
That's July 25th. July. Okay. All right. Review of upcoming public engagement opportunities. We have Music in the Park concert series, Friday, 6:30 p.m., July 7th through August 25th, North Creek Sport Field, number 3. Brian Vogan and his good buddies at Just Kidding Around is Wednesday, July 19th, 11 a.m., Park at Bothell Landing Amphitheater. Main Street Block Party, 1 year commemoration of the Main Street Fire, Saturday, July 22nd, 4 p.m. in downtown Bothell. Shakespeare's Hamlet, Saturday, July 22nd, 2 p.m., Park at Bothell Landing Amphitheater. Linwood Community Band Concerts, Saturday, July 29th, 7, Park at Bothell Landing Amphitheater. All right, now we're into special presentations. The first one is a Silent Service Award, and it's going to be presented by Art and Jeannie McKean. Are you guys here? Awesome.
Mr. Mayor, Madam Deputy Mayor, Councilman, we are Art and Jeannie McCain. We're here on behalf of a very good friend of ours named Peter R. Marsh. We call him Pete. Pete has learned that there are a number of people in our various communities across the country who do extra service for people in need. And they do it without publication, without compensation, without notoriety. And he's felt that he calls these people silent servants. And he's felt for some time that they need to be recognized and awarded for the service they do for the people in need. So Pete established a foundation called the Peter R. Marsh Foundation to recognize these people, to award them and to recognize them in the hopes that they will continue with their work, and in hopes that maybe others will join them in the work that they do. We are here tonight to present the 2017 Silent Servant Award, and Jeannie is going to make that presentation.
It's an honor and a privilege to point out one of your community people that does something far and beyond our normal things. She has talent that is really quite spectacular. And the award tonight goes to Sarah Walters. Is Sarah here? Sarah is the first one, I think, to be surprised. She has an entourage of family and friends here, but she did not know she was getting that award tonight. So could you come up, Sarah? This is for you. Thank you. Sarah gives, thank you. We want to be in the picture. You in the middle. Sarah gives special henna tattoos. They're temporary tattoos for women, basically, I think, that are going through cancer or other diseases, and they lose their hair. She does this. She donates her time and her artistic work in order to pamper them and make them feel special. You get have it for about 3 or 4 weeks. Is that how long it stays? And I just have a couple pictures I want to show what she does. It's amazing.
You can put them up on that projector there next to you.
Do I do it like this?
Upside down.
Other way.
This?
There we go.
Absolutely fantastic artwork. All different designs. She went to school to learn how to do this, and she has her own studio with her 2 sisters. But she is the one that donates her time, energy, and wonderful feelings. Congratulations. Thank you. If we could steal the sisters and Sarah out in the hall for a few pictures, we'd enjoy that. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you for your time.
The next presentation is a presentation of $1 million from the Conservation Future Grants Award, Snohomish County Councilmember Terry Ryan.
Good evening. Thank you very much to the mayor and the council. I know you have a tight agenda till 10:45, so I'm going to make
Yeah,
this.
I'm going to cut you off in 5 minutes, so go ahead and
Okay.
start.
Well, the more you cut it off, the fewer zeros are on that check. No, no, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. I would like to, it's my pleasure to be here. I wanted to commend a number of people along the way here. This is $1 million from Snohomish County Conservation Futures Fund to help save the Shelton View Forest. First of all, I want to thank the Snohomish County Conservation Futures Board, the County Council, Cheryl Stanford, who's here, and David Bain, the neighborhood members, all the volunteers that made a great case on this. Also the Bothell City Council for working with me and twisting my arm. And it was a great team effort. Oftentimes, to give a baseball analogy, you talk about, hey, we got a double out of this or triple. This was not only a home run, it was a home run out of the park over the rainbow and landed in the bucket, a pot of gold. And the reason for that is we had about $2 million to allocate countywide. We had about, it was either 7 or 9 projects totaling well over $5 million. And there was a lot of jostling going back and forth, and we have a great board, and they weigh everything out. Bothell made a great presentation. I tried to help guide it along, and at one point, one of the board members said, Terry, we only have $2 million to give. We can't give half to Bothell. And I said, actually, you can. And here's why. And I talked about the development that's going on between Mill Creek and Bothell, forest land disappearing rapidly, and that this was a great opportunity, a first step by the county to help make that right, because we have all the development down here. Anyway, I wanted to, I just really want to close by saying it really was a team effort. I think this was first brought to my attention, I think, by Cheryl Stanford. I think you invited me over to your house, and the neighborhood was there. They took me on a tour of the DNR property. David Bain got involved. It was just a great, great team effort. And again, I want to commend the city council here. I really believe in partnerships. Normally, we can't partner on this type of this large amount of money, but we're happy to do so here. And it does, and I know Bothell is going to work real hard to work out the delta between what you need to purchase the property and the $1 million, whatever that delta is. And I think we've given like 3 years for you to close on the deal. If you need an extension, I'll get an extension for you because we want to get this thing done. Anyway, so the ceremonial check here is for $1 million. That's from Snohomish County to the city of Bothell. And if we could, I'd surely.
Yeah, come up here,
Andy,
Terry.
hold on. I think you want the check, not me.
All right, let's come down real quick.
You know, could the council come out and get a photo together? That would be great. Sure. Oh, sure. I didn't know how many people are here. I don't know how we'll squeeze them in, but maybe everybody could line up, maybe diagonally. Actually, maybe you could just slide it next to the Terry. Put the kids in front.
I want to see that.
Okay, one more presentation from Snohomish Health District is a Snohomish Health District update. We have Jeff Ketchel, interim administrator, here to give the presentation.
Good evening, Council. Mayor, thank you for having me tonight. I'm Jeff Ketchel. I'm the interim administrator for the Snohomish Health District. Bothell's been pretty busy. I got my master's degree over at UWB back in 2008, and spent many evening, my night classes, after my night classes, going to the Main Street pub to discuss many of the policy things we were discussing of the evening, of course. But anyway, it's great to be back here. I've been with the Snohomish Health District a couple of years. After got my master's, I was able to go over east of the mountains for a few years and cut my teeth, and now I'm happy to be back here. Happy to announce that the Health District just hired a brand new health officer, and he'll be starting next month. A lot of experience with the CDC and globe-trotting, investigating lots of exotic diseases around the world. And he'll be here to help us here in Snohomish County very, very soon. So tonight, my presentation is going to focus on 3 areas, and that is how the Snohomish Health District is working to make Snohomish County simpler, safer, and healthier. Now, simple is an interesting one. My background's environmental health, so my first job was in King County as a restaurant inspector, and so much of what public health does is regulatory in nature. So how can we make the regulatory environment simpler for those that have to engage with us? The first and foremost thing is food trucks. I remember inspecting food temporary events back in the mid-90s. There were a lot of tarps and tents and tables and things like that, but now you go to a fair or a carnival and it's a whole lot of food trucks. And as the nature of these temporary food events have changed, the health district and its regulatory environment has to change with it. And so just about a month or 2 ago, we changed our policies around food trucks. A lot of food trucks down in King County and some even in Pierce County wanted to come up here and do business in Snohomish County, but they didn't want to have to go through duplicative processes. And so the Snohomish County Health District decided to allow, if you're already a permitted food truck in King or Pierce County, you can bypass the plan review process and go straight and get a permit, and the whole thing takes about a week. And this was a big deal over at the, I want to say T-Mobile site here in Bothell, where some of those King County food trucks were getting shut down because they didn't have Snohomish County permits. And they didn't realize that site was over the county line. And so we worked with them first, and they were the first to get new permits. And there were some very happy workers down there who had some nice lunch options that had suddenly been taken away. Another thing we're doing is moving to online permitting, and we have a number of permits that soon be available online, so Snohomish County residents won't have to drive all the way to Everett to get some of the permits that we issue. Another thing we do to keep things simple is we do a lot of data analysis and produce a lot of reports. And a couple of those reports are in front of you, analyses from our recent Snohomish County-wide Healthy Youth Survey. And we make those reports available online and other places. If you have specific data requests, we have epidemiologists available at your service to either go out and find data. We have access to databases that the average person does not have access to. Or if you're writing a grant, writing a report, we're a great resource for you. I also want to thank the city of Bothell for contributing to the health district this year. And with some of the money that we got from the cities this year, we were able to hire an additional epidemiologist. Those are the people who analyze this data and produce these reports. We like to say in public health, what doesn't get measured doesn't get done. And so some of the things I'm going to talk about tonight is how we're measuring things and how we're taking those into action. And so jumping into the SAFER, you'll see one of the handouts I gave you has to do with depression and suicide. And you'll see under seriously considered attempting suicide, the first line there, 12th graders, 22.7% of Snohomish County 12th graders in 2016 were seriously considering suicide. The Healthy Youth Survey is a survey that's conducted every 2 years for every 6th, 8th, 10th, and 12th grader statewide. Now, what's particularly concerning about these numbers is 2 years ago when this was last done, it was 18.7%. 2 years before that, it was 16.3%, and 2 years before that, it was 15.6%. We're seeing this as a trend. And so the health district assesses this as a problem, and so we take action. So one of our healthy community specialists is working on a couple of different suicide prevention projects. One of those is called the Gatekeeper Training, where she goes out and trains any adult or group of adults that provide services to teenagers, whether that's a coach or a youth pastor, somebody who works at a Boys and Girls Club, about identifying signs of suicide and how to intervene. Another thing she's doing is working with local school district to implement a curriculum called SOS, or Signs of Suicide, and teaching so the school faculty and staff are trained up on what to identify and how to respond as well. And I would be remiss in my presentation if I didn't also talk about the opioid epidemic. And I'm going to spend a few minutes on that. And the other handout I gave you on the Healthy Youth Survey has to do with youth drug use. And you see on ever tried heroin line, 3.2% of Snohomish County 12th graders have tried heroin. While that may be disturbing, it's actually a positive trend, because 2 years ago, it was 5.7% of 12th graders in Snohomish County. And that's a direction we want to continue to see having. So some of the outreach and education that many of us in government and in the nonprofit world are doing are working, and we want to see more and more kids not go down that path. So in looking at the opioid epidemic, we have something called the public health process, and that is, first we assess what's the problem, then we implement policies, take actions, and then we do the assurance part, make sure those actions are actually solving the problem. And so we address that with waste medicine return. And so you're probably aware that last year the Snohomish County Board of Health passed the 8th ordinance in the nation requiring the pharmaceutical industry to fully fund and operate a medicine take-back program throughout all of Snohomish County. That is going to be up and running by the end of this month. We're very excited about that. But before we got to that ordinance phase, we went through an assessment part. We knew that 73% of teens said it was easy to get prescription drugs from their parents' medicine cabinet. We knew in interviewing people that used the needle exchange in Everett that we helped support that 91% of those injecting heroin had first abused prescription drugs. We knew nationally 45% of heroin users are also addicted to prescription opioid painkillers. So we knew prescription painkillers were a big issue in this epidemic we're having. And so making sure we have safe, secure, convenient medicine return. So my wife just recently had surgery, and as she was being discharged from the hospital, I won't say where. I was there with her when she was being discharged, and they wanted to give her 60 Oxycontin. And she hadn't had all she had is Tylenol for the past 24 hours, and she was fine. But they still wanted to send her home with 60 high-potent pills. And we were disappointed that the doctor wanted to go in this direction. We were able to talk him down to just 30 Vicodin. And she's been home now for over 24 hours and she's taken 0. And she will probably not take 0. And we'll probably take it back to a medicine return here in the next month or so and not use any. But how can we work with the medical community? So we assess this as a problem, and I've heard these stories from all over the place, and the evidence is there, and they write about it in the newspapers. So we assess that as a problem. That's one of the next steps, and one of the things that new health officer is going to be working with is the medical community on prescription practices. We also know that we assess that there's not enough information out there. There's not enough knowledge about how to connect people with a treatment. And so the health district is putting together an online portal in partnership. We met today with the county sheriff, with County Human Services, City of Everett, and others, in bringing all the information together in one place. So whether that's a parent who wants to know about drug addiction, whether that's a family of somebody who is addicted and they want to get them connected with treatment, or other issues, we'll be able to connect them in one place. And another thing we're doing is collecting more data. There's a story that's going on this week. The Frontline from ABC is collecting data from all throughout Snohomish County about overdoses, and they're doing this in selected communities around the country this week. And there will be a story on Frontline in Snohomish County. Will be part of that on TV on ABC. And then we've also been working with a intern here in the city of Bothell, Jenny Ferreira, and working with her. We're her preceptor for her Master's in Public Health internship, and I know she's been working on developing an opioid plan for the city of Bothell. We've also been communicating with the North Shore School District around seeing if they wanted to develop sort of a drug awareness coalition, and we'll also be participating in their back to school fair next month. And we've sent them some information through different venues, and now our job is to follow up to see which way they want to go and what choices they want to do, and we're there to help support those as well. And then lastly, on to making Snohomish County healthier. We're on the waning end of a mumps outbreak. So in public health, state law requires doctors and clinics, when they diagnose a communicable disease like mumps or measles or whooping cough, they have to report it to the local health department. So what we do there is we contact that person who was infected. We find out where they were when they were contagious, who they were around, and then we start calling those other affected people. What's their vaccine status? Are they having any symptoms? Get them connected with medical care if necessary. And so far in during this latest mumps outbreak, we've investigated 241 cases of mumps, and sometimes some of those cases have upwards of 10 or more contacts we also have to interview in that process. Luckily, the best killer for any sort of communicable disease outbreak is summertime when school's out, and so we're starting to see those cases really drop off. Another thing that's been keeping us very busy is tuberculosis. We currently have 19 active cases of TB in Snohomish County. Now, TB is a little bit different. We actively, on 15 of those, we have to go out and visit those cases every single day to watch them take their medication. It's called direct observed therapy. So many of you may have had strep throat or something else where you've had to take antibiotics, and sometimes somebody might not take the last couple pills because they feel fine. And what happens? It comes back stronger and worse, and you have to get on a stronger antibiotic. Well, for somebody who's on TB medication for 3, 6, 9 months or longer, for them to not fulfill that treatment and to come back with something that's resistant is a very bad thing. Treating just somebody with regular active TB is about $15,000. Treating somebody with drug-resistant TB is upwards of $200,000 or more. And so we spend a lot of time and resources making sure those folks with active TB in our community are taking their medications every single day, and that minimizes the chances for spreading that disease. And then lastly, on the STD front, on the disease front, is sexually transmitted diseases. There's some recent articles in the paper, and I was interviewed on Channel 4 regarding our high STD numbers in Snohomish County. And just for numbers' sake, from 2011 to 2016, just the Snohomish County side of Bothell had 928 diagnosed sexually transmitted diseases. And so, but you know, that is significant, but we've had many, many tens of thousands of these cases throughout Snohomish County. So with some of the money we've received from the cities, we've hired an additional public health nurse to work in our TB program. And so again, very appreciative of that resources as well. That's it for my presentation. I tried to zip through a lot of information in an expeditious manner. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Is there any questions from Council? Deputy Mayor?
Thank you for your presentation. That was really interesting. I did have a question, though, about the mumps outbreak. Is that in any way related to people not having their children vaccinated? Did you see a correlation?
So having both shots of the MMR vaccine is still the best defense. So there was a study done at a mumps New York City outbreak where they looked at people who had 2 doses, 1 doses, and no doses. Now, this vaccine is not 100%. And so if you had both doses, I think the chances of getting the disease was like 3 or 4%. If you just have 1 dose, your chances of getting the disease was like 9%. But if you had no doses, the chance of getting that disease is about, I think, 50 or 60%. So it's still the best defense that we have, even though we are going to see people with both doses who are going to get sick. But there is an issue with people not getting not having that herd immunity in our community, but it's not the only issue. So it's about people getting both doses of vaccine. It's about staying home when you're sick, and that kind of stuff.
Great. Thanks so much.
Yep.
Councilmember Sandberg?
Thank you for your presentation. I'm sorry if you covered this and I missed it. Are you seeing a rise in drug-resistant gonorrhea?
I think nationally we are, and I know just last year in Hawaii there was an outbreak of drug-resistant gonorrhea, and I know internationally they just diagnosed 3 cases of completely drug-resistant gonorrhea. So I know gonorrhea over the past few years it's been harder and harder to treat. It's just a matter of time. STDs, I mean, we've seen such a sharp rise in the past 5, 6 years. I attribute those to the three different things. One is, of course, the big cut in public health funding. Most of our work right now is on response. We're almost doing nothing on the prevention side, or at least not enough. Number 2, I graduated high school in 1989. I remember back then in my college years, HIV/AIDS was a death sentence. I got a lot of sexual education, whether I wanted it or not, about the importance of protection. And HIV/AIDS is no longer a death sentence. It's almost like a chronic disease. And thirdly, with the advent of a lot of innovative phone apps where it's easy to find anonymous, willing partners at any moment of the day, anywhere you are, people aren't hooking up in bars and nightclubs like they used to. And so you have that convenience, you have people being willing to engage in more riskier behavior, and then you don't have a mechanism such as a robust public health system to help prevent it.
So you're not necessarily seeing drug-resistant gonorrhea in Snohomish County, or you're not yet tracking it, or haven't had reports of it yet?
I'm not
here
aware of it
locally?
specifically. I know I get frequent reports about what's happening on the national stage, but based on these trends that we're seeing more and more cases of gonorrhea every year, and how quickly it's spreading, I think it's only a matter of time.
I agree. Only a matter of time.
Yep.
Thank you.
Mr. Ketchel, thanks for coming out tonight. Appreciate it.
Hey, my pleasure. I'll see you again soon.
Okay. Next, we have the staff briefings, the 4th of July recap. Director Keats, Parks and Recreation Director.
Just press that. Perfect.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. I am going to defer to Scott Purdy, Park Operations Supervisor, tonight for this presentation. I'll just advance the slides.
Hello, I'm Scott Purdy. I'm the Park Maintenance Supervisor and Parade Coordinator for the City of Bothell. Just wanted to give you a quick wrap-up of this year's parade. It's obviously a huge community event that's been going on for over 100 years. As you can tell from this picture, it's a turn-of-the-century picture showing the Bothell Town Band leading the parade up 102nd Street Bridge. Every year we start our day off at 9 a.m. on the parade day at City Hall with 60 City of Bothell employees and over 100 volunteers from the Evergreen Church. We do a pre-parade meeting, you can see here. At 11:15, the children's parade starts. This year we had 1,300 participants, bikes, strollers, and wagons. At noon, the grand parade started, and we had 130 vehicles and 1,800 walkers in this parade. Next year, we'll be back to the new and improved Main Street for the parade. Just wanted to give a big thank you to the Parks and Recreation staff, Public Works staff, Tim Liu, who's sitting back there. Also wanted to thank police, fire, University of Washington, Bothell, North Shore School District, and the amazing volunteers at Evergreen Church. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. All right. Next, we have the council committee reports. Did they want to say more? City manager? Oh, okay. Sorry. You were laughing.
No, I was just hoping you would recognize Palu, who
Oh, I
led
didn't
the
see him.
parade. It was a very, Scott came through, very last picture.
Who would like to do council committee reports? Councilmember Samrick.
So I sent you an email about the outcome of the latest Metropolitan Solid Waste Municipal Advisory Committee meeting. And this is sort of like the biggest news that never happened. We talked up here about King County's proposal to close Houghton as agreed upon by former agreements and undergo this demand management pilot where they would close Houghton and then handle the self-haul and commercial haul loads at the existing transfer stations, which would have resulted, it's like peak pricing, so would have likely resulted in higher prices for Bothell residents with less service. And that was precipitated because Bellevue and the 4 Point cities did not sign the interlocal agreement to continue on with King County Solid Waste. So the thought was, without Bellevue and the 4 Point cities, maybe the existing system could accommodate the solid waste load. Well, at the last meeting, so last Friday, we found out that actually upon further consideration, Bellevue and the 4 Point cities have entered in it's like a memorandum of understanding. It still has to be approved by their councils, where they in fact will continue to operate with King County Solid Waste to deliver their garbage service, as opposed to forming their own garbage service. So that means that with Houghton closing, and King County Solid Waste has agreed to close Houghton, they agreed years ago, that with that closing, there will be enough demand with the 5 cities staying in the long-term interlocal agreement to justify the location of a new Northeast transfer station. So I think that's good in the sense that with under demand management, we were, like I said, going to have to pay more and get less service. And so now King County is not going to waste effort going down this demand management process only to find out potentially in the end that they needed a new Northeast transfer station anyway. So I posed a couple of questions or ideas of how the city should move forward, because now the conversation has changed. Before we were talking about, if the demand management pilot fails, what kind of participation does Bothell want to have with the location of the new Northeast transfer station? Well, that is now gone. I mean, they're going to locate a new Northeast transfer station. We had talked previously that a Northeast transfer station might cost upwards of $100 million. The slide that's in this handout showed that now they're estimating it at $160 million. Again, that's an increase in the rates for the ratepayers, but before we were going to be paying peak pricing and still paying off the new station down in Algona. So they think that rates will go down. The tonnage rates will go down with more participants in the pool, so to speak, bringing an economy of scale. But they also anticipate that, so the tonnage will go down, tonnage fee will go down, but rates will increase. And that was on slide number, page number 10, slide number 20. So I just wanted to report that to you, that we've been working on that assumption of this demand management pilot, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen. And I wanted to recognize Sabrina Combs because she was diligent and dogged in representing Bothell's interests and showing to King County Solid Waste Division some of the lack of information that they were providing. And I think that combination of Sabrina's doggedness and Bellevue's deciding that they didn't want to operate their own solid waste service convinced them to consider rejoining the interlocal agreement. So let's see, I sent the email, and it was 4 items? Things that we need to think about. Well, I mean, we need to think about what kind of role we want to play with this new Northeast transfer station. And then, and part of that is understanding what a new transfer station might look like, and Algona will be the newest one online. So when it comes online, I recommend that we visit that as a council field trip to review that facility. But with that, I'll just answer any questions, since I kind of laid it all out in the email.
Councilor Spivey?
Just a shorter field trip is a brand new transfer station open in Bellevue. And so I don't know that Algona is going to be that much different than the Factoria transfer station. It's been open less than a year, so.
Okay. And then also we talked about, where if they're going to locate it, where would they locate it? It's not a very good print version, but slide number 7 shows the whole King County Solid Waste Division district. You'd see it better on the electronic version. But a large part of eastern King County is actually national forest. And so it's not well served by infrastructure. It also doesn't have a high population. So when they're looking to site a northeast transfer station, it's likely going to be in this more shaded area.
Sounds good. So you don't need direction from us, but you just want to give us a heads up and make sure that staff probably come back when this.
Yep, just want to let you know that it looks like if their councils approve the interlocal agreement, then the demand management pilot will be dropped, that IOD will be dropped, and they will be looking at siting a northeast transfer station because they have made the agreement to close Houghton. And there are other jurisdictions who are interested in hosting a transfer station. There are other jurisdictions that are not interested in hosting a transfer station. And that would be a discussion that council will have in the future.
Do you know timeline-wise when we should be ready to answer that question as a council?
Well, so they are going to have to do a budget, King County Council is going to have to do a budget amendment to basically transfer the funds for that demand management study into a Northeast Station siting location study. And she was saying that was more like mid-year of 2018 for them to do a budget amendment. And then there's not even any line item at all for a Northeast transfer station in the 17-18 biennial budget, so that would be something in the 19-20 biennial budget.
Okay.
So
we got some time.
you got time.
Okay.
Just now we don't have to worry about demand management.
Awesome. Thank you for covering that committee. Is there any other committee reports, Deputy Mayor?
So last Thursday I had Transportation Day. I went to the Puget Sound Regional Council Transportation Policy Board meeting where there's a financial strategies update. Basically, the updated revenue and expenses estimate shows a $41.5 billion gap between what's needed and current revenue. And those include projects for maintenance and preservation, regional capacity, and local system improvements. The Finance Working Group recommended, because of the gas tax revenue declining, they're recommending looking into road usage charges. So, of course, that would take legislative action, but they're going to proceed looking at that. And then we had reports on I-5 operation improvements, I-5 preservation needs, seismic preparedness, HOV speed and reliability, and state routes of local interest. One thing that really stood out to me was these are all 2040 projections, and right around 2040, there are close to 60 bridges that will need to be replaced. So that's not even part of this financial estimate. So look forward to how they're going to pay for that. And then the WashDOT Executive Advisory Board met in Kent, and basically we got all of the updates when Kim Henry from WashDOT came the week prior. So that's it.
Councilmember McNeil?
I'll try to make mine short and sweet. So Public Issues Committee pick this month, we had a round robin going around a table discussing affordable housing and listening to each one of the 37 cities discuss how they're handling affordable housing. It became apparent that we need to have more of a robust discussion between our cities to ensure that that we're working at it as a regional effort versus an individual city effort. It was very troublesome hearing some of the cities are 40%. Renton mentioned they're 40% burdened in some of their homes. 40% of their homes are burdened. Other cities like Kent mentioned that they actually have affordable housing because their homes range from $250 to $350. So in that discussion, we talked about making sure that the individual cities and city staffs meet more frequently and discuss affordable housing as a regional effort versus individual effort. North Shore Parks and Recreation Service Area, we did not have a meeting this month. However, I'm bringing this up because there is a group of folks, including the superintendent, from North Shore School Districts, Councilmember Cook from Woodinville, Councilmember Smith from Kenmore, and myself that will be attending the King County Council meeting tomorrow. And there'll be a discussion on a pool in the North Shore area at that council meeting. So I'll be attending that, and I'll give an update after that council meeting. North Shore Conservation Futures, I just want to say hats off to Snohomish County, Tara and Ryan, for working so hard with us to get us that $1 million grant to help start the acquisition of the Shelton View Forest. I think that's a well-deserved and well-needed piece of property that we have in our north end. Which brings me to King County Land Conservation Advisory Group. This group works, it's a diverse group of regional leaders throughout King County, working on a long-term strategy saving green spaces and resource lands, unprotected lands in high conservation value. And I'm very happy that our city manager was able to get the September meeting here at City Hall at September 21st, 4:30 to 7. There'll be a group of members from out our region working with King County to save green spaces. So I'm very excited that we get to host that meeting. King County Flood Control Advisory Committee, there was a lot of discussion around the budget in this last meeting. A lot of the budget conversations is around the green and the Snoqualmie, and there's very small and limited discussions around the Sammamish. One of the things I'd like to make sure is that we can work and find if we have any programs or projects that we would like to see completed and possible grant application processes for the Sammamish in our area, so that I can bring that back to the committee and make sure that we get that on the list. We have a Regional Law and Safety Justice Committee meeting coming up on the 27th. The focus of that meeting, which I will bring back to the council, is going to be on juvenile justice and equity. Several programs will be presented. The Cops and Cards program will be presented at that meeting, raising youth leaders, and then a theft pilot program, talking about the theft with youth within our area. So there's a new program. So I'll bring that back to council after that meeting on the 27th. Seashore and ETP this month had very similar presentations. I will note that, once again, the Seashore focused on the I-5-522 corridor, and often we hear in the ETP meeting they focus on the 405 corridor up to 522 in Canyon Park as well as I-5, but mainly the I-405 corridor. So I'm very hopeful and looking forward to our next conversation about making sure that we have our voice at Seashore as well as ETP. But some of the conversation this last meeting was about the port and some of the grant opportunities that the port has. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, we took advantage of a grant for our Canyon Park Regional Growth Center, if I'm not mistaken, and they discussed additional grant opportunities that are available or could potentially be available. So I'd like to make sure that we're at least looking into that. Christy, who used to serve on SCA, is now with the port, and so we had a very robust conversation, so I'm hopeful that she will come out and discuss things with us. They have a visit, you can go down and visit SeaTac Airport on July 27th. As an elected official, they have a big tour going. One thing that they discussed is Ivers will be in SeaTac, so it's exciting news, but they would like to get other vendors and open up the opportunities for minority-owned businesses and other local community businesses to make sure that they're being equitable. There's a visit of the actual, let's see here, the Ship Canal on August 24th, so you can go down to Ship Canal and, as a legislator, visit the Ship Canal and see all the great things they have to offer. Then there was a conversation around community connections. And Community Connections was formerly known, it's King County Community Connections, was formerly known as Alternative Services. And we are involved in that program through our van pool. And one of the interesting things that came out of that conversation was that Kenmore is doing a pilot program, Kenmore to Kirkland, in what's called a trip pool. And so it'd be interesting to find out what that connection is, Kenmore to Kirkland. They also have a community van, and then they have another pilot program that's called School Pool, which will launch in the fall of 2017, and it's surrounding Arrowhead Elementary specifically, and then other Kirkland school locations around a program get kids to and from school with alternative transportation. So super excited to hear about that, but would like to make sure that we have a little bit more information on that. So, and then we have our community van that I believe started July 11th, if I'm not mistaken. And so I'd be interested to hear where we are on that. And then the last one I have is Sound Transit had a delivery update, and they discussed 522 completion of BRT, which we had a lengthy discussion on that last meeting, being complete by 2024, that's Sound Transit version. And that connection to Linwood Light Rail, which is supposed to be done 2023, and then them also having a BRT going from our Canyon Park and Ride to that Linwood Light Rail. So there'd be a connection going north as well, not just south. So that's my update, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Great. Is there any other committee reports? Seeing none. We'll move into visitor comment. So at this time, each person addressing the council will give his or her name in an audible tone of voice for the record, and unless the council grants further time, shall limit the address to 3 minutes. No person other than the council and the person having the floor will be permitted to enter into any discussion either directly or through a member of the council without the permission of the mayor. And I have sign-up sheets here. We do have 2 public hearings later tonight, so if you want to wait and speak during the public hearing so you're part of the record, the 2 public hearings are the street vacation at the northeast corner 103rd and 103rd Avenue Northeast, Northeast 185th, and then the other one is a public hearing on the downtown utilities and frontage improvement reimbursement areas. First sign-up sheet is Merrill Charles.
Good evening, Mayor, council members. Yeah, I am Merrill Charles. I'm on the Parks and Rec Advisory Board for the City of Bothell, and I'm here to comment on the Beardsley Park adjacent to the village at Beardsley Crossing. It's under new business for you folks tonight on your agenda. As a Parks Board member, I'm not supportive of the current plan from the Village of Beardsley Crossing developer for 3 reasons. First of all, the current plan that's in front of the park board that we got to see is vastly different from what was originally presented to us years ago. We saw 2 presentations from Steve Cox many years ago. We approved it, and today there's another plan that's been put in front of us that's up for approval, and the board does not advise City Council to approve it. Secondly, there was only 1 public commentary meeting for the people of the City of Bothell to come up and to see the plan and to provide feedback and comment. For all the years I've been on the advisory board, there's always been many meetings where the public could come forth, see plans, and give their public comment. And I don't think that 1 meeting is enough for public to come forth and make any comments about it. And lastly, I think the potential park mitigation fees that the Beardsley Crossing developer would pay would be better utilized for other projects across the city rather than the park that they have proposed at the Beardsley Crossing. So those are my 3 reasons. Do you have any questions?
Councilmember Sandberg.
So what we in our agenda packet, we don't see what the original plans are. So how are the plans from today, the 2016 plans, different from the 2014 plans?
So the original plans that were put forth, and I know John Keats has some aerial views of that, the original plans had a lot of vegetation and a lot of artistic elements. So I think that Steve Cox had worked with some artistic director who was also in the City of Bothell, and they had some foresight about building out a very nice bus stop area that had some art injected into it. There's also a very large boulder there. They call it a glacial erratic that had moved with the glacier. They had it out there. They were going to build out some artistic artwork there. It was a very, very all-encompassing plan that had artwork that flowed into the natural elements that were there and made it very pleasant. The plan that they put forth just very recently, which is very stripped down, is just some basic vegetation to take up that space.
Okay, just a follow-up question.
Quick, please.
So in the original plan, do you remember anything like a significant, like a more significant gateway treatment? Because that is considered, I believe, in our comprehensive plan, one of the gateway entrances into the city. And the idea is to, have a more, I don't know, like a more vibrant treatment
Right.
to alert people that, you're entering, the city or a certain sub-area of the city. And do you remember that from the original plan?
So I don't remember any original signage that was going to proclaim that it's a gateway coming into Bothell, but all of the artwork that was incorporated into the park that's present there represented like swimming salmon, a man and his son fishing, and it was the art that was out towards the street that really gave it a pleasant view coming into the city. Right now, it looks like a lot of trees and bushes and just something to take up the space.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Roger Smith.
Mayor, Deputy Mayor, and the City Council, I'm Roger Smith. I am also talking about the same subject that Merrill just talked about. I've been on the Parks and Recreation Advisory Board for 2 years, and these are my personal comments. So I am here to encourage this body, the Bothell City Council, to do what the Parks and Recreation Board has done unanimously twice, and that is to reject this plan, this arrangement. I have many concerns, but I'll talk about 3 tonight. The first one is cost. So the proposed park is it's a noisy corner. It's at 112th Beersley and 195th. It's kind of a triangle right off of 405. The land currently is basically scab land. There's nothing on it. There's a path, concrete path now. And to the east of that concrete path, my understanding is that is Bothell City property. So if there was a gateway you want to put in there, we could do something in that property. So the land is approximately 8,000 square feet, we've been told, and the developer wants to give that land to the city and in lieu of the impact and mitigation fees of $343,000. So if you calculate that cost on a per acre basis, you get to about $2 million for an acre. And if you compare that to the Wayne Golf Course, the cost of the Wayne Golf Course is $127,000 per acre. So the large difference there. And I just think the $343,000 would be better used as a down payment for the Wayne Golf Course or Shelton View Woods. I also had public input, and I won't cover that because she covered it for me already. So my other concern is slippery slope. And this is a large concern for me, and I believe that no matter what this body does, to not allow a developer to say, I want that deal, it just won't work. There's too much money involved, and the developer will activate their lawyers and to get around any obstacle that you guys put in their way. And I'm just concerned if one guy gets it, they're all going to get it, and there's not going to be any more park impact fee monies available, especially from the larger developments. So please reject this arrangement. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
You're out of time. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Appreciate it. Next we have, there happens when I start. Does anybody else want to provide public comment tonight? That's the end of my sign-up sheet. Seeing none. Okay, we're going to move into the consent agenda. No items have been moved from consent. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor, second by Councilmember Agnew. Is there any discussion on the consent agenda? I just have one real quick. This is our first installment in the improvements to the road system from the Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy, and I wish we had a little more time to talk about it, but we don't. So, but I'm glad to see that we're moving forward with the funds that are coming in to preserve our roads. Any further discussions? Councilmember Sandberg?
I'll be voting for it. I did ask the question, though, we're, in one of these contracts, we're approving a crack seal. And I had asked the question, why isn't Holly Hills Drive included in this contract? And the response is that the overlay and crack seal program only addresses arterials and collectors, and Northeast Holly Hills Drive is designated as a local street. But staff says that Northeast Holly Hills Drive likely needs to be rebuilt. So I would just say that we have received testimony in the past about the state of that important road for the people up on Holly Hills. And I noticed that we have in the past, when we were talking about the Safe Streets and Sidewalks levy, we had talked about adding $1.65 million to our pavement preservation budget to bring it up to a target total of $3 million annually. And it doesn't look like we are hitting that target for $3 million annually this year. And we may exceed it by $500,000 next year, but I will be looking to see that Holly Hills Drive is looked at in future contracts.
All right, is there any further discussion on the motion? Consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, place your vote. Passes unanimously. All right, so we'll go into, we moved it up, so we're going to go to executive session pursuant to RCW 4230-110 sub 1I. Potential litigation is 15 minutes. City Attorney, 15 minutes good still?
That should be sufficient.
Okay, so we'll be back at 7:20.